I used to say it like it was strength. I don't care. I said it when things fell apart. I said it when people walked away. I said it when the world didn't give me what I thought I deserved. I don't care. It sounds powerful, doesn't it? Cold, untouchable, bulletproof. But here's the truth no one tells you. Most of the time, I don't care doesn't mean you're strong. It means you're tired. It means you've been disappointed one too many times. It means somewhere along the way, you decided it hurts less not to feel. We build that wall brick by brick after rejection, after failure, after being laughed at for dreaming too big. And one day we wake up and realize we're not just protecting ourselves from pain, we're protecting ourselves from life. Because when you stop caring, you don't just turn off the hurt, you turn off the love, the ambition, the fire, the possibility. Overcoming I don't care isn't about becoming loud or dramatic. It's about having the courage to feel again, to try again, to risk looking foolish again. It's about standing in front of your own fear and saying, I do care. And that's my strength. So today I want to talk about breaking that armor, about choosing courage over indifference, about caring so deeply that the world can't ignore you. Because the moment you decide to care again is the moment your life begins to change. I used to say it like it meant something powerful. I don't care. 3 words. A wall built in a breath. Someone doubts you. I don't care. Someone leaves. I don't care. You fail. I don't care. It sounds strong. It sounds untouchable. It sounds like you've mastered something the rest of the world hasn't. Like you've figured out how to walk through fire without feeling the burn. But let me tell you something most people won't admit. Nobody who truly doesn't care ever needs to say it out loud. I don't care is usually whispered by someone who cared too much for too long. You cared when they didn't show up. You cared when they lied. You cared when you gave your best, and it still wasn't enough. You cared when the dream didn't happen on your timeline. And after a while, caring felt expensive. It cost sleep. It cost pride. It cost self-respect. It cost hope. So you did what felt necessary. You shut it down. Not all at once, not dramatically, not like in the movies. It happens quietly. The first time you say, I don't care, and it stings a little because you know you're lying. The second time, it's easier. The 10th time, it's automatic. And eventually, it becomes part of your personality. You stop trying as hard. You stop loving as openly. You stop risking as boldly. You call it maturity. You call it realism. You call it being unbothered. But deep down, it's armor. And armor is heavy. People think indifference is freedom. It's not. Indifference is a cage with invisible bars. When you say, I don't care, you're not just shutting out the bad, you're shutting out everything. You don't feel the disappointment as deeply, sure, but you also don't feel the excitement. You don't feel the pride. You don't feel the electricity of going all in on something that scares you. You don't feel alive. You exist, you move, you function, but you don't burn. And here's the thing about fire. It's dangerous, yes, but it's also the only thing that keeps you warm. Somewhere along the way, a lot of us decided warmth wasn't worth the risk of getting burned. So we chose cold. Cold conversations, cold ambition, cold love. We scroll past opportunities. We ghost people who might matter. We abandon ideas before they have a chance to grow. And when someone asks why, we shrug. I don't care. But watch closely. Watch the body language of someone who says that. The tight jaw, the crossed arms, the eyes that look away too quickly. That's not indifference. That's protection. Protection from embarrassment. Protection from rejection. Protection from trying your hardest and still coming up short. Because there's nothing more vulnerable than caring. When you care, you risk losing. When you care, you risk being seen. When you care, you risk failing in front of everyone. And that's terrifying. It's easier to pretend you never wanted it. It's easier to laugh at the dream than chase it. It's easier to criticize from the sidelines than step into the arena. I don't care becomes a shield, but shields weren't meant to be worn forever. They were meant for battles. Some of you have been in survival mode for so long you forgot the war is over. You're still holding the shield, still braced for impact, still expecting the next blow. But life isn't always attacking you. Sometimes it's inviting you to try again, inviting you to love again, inviting you to build something meaningful. And you can't accept that invitation with your arms crossed. You can't build anything powerful from a place of indifference. Think about the people you admire, the ones who changed something, the ones who created art, built companies, healed communities, inspired movements. Do you think they said, I don't care? No. They cared so much it made them uncomfortable. They cared so much they were willing to look foolish. They cared so much they kept going when it would have been easier to quit. Caring is not weakness. It's courage in its rawest form. It's standing in front of uncertainty and saying, this matters to me, even if it doesn't matter to anyone else yet. And that's the part that hurts. Because sometimes you'll care alone. You'll be the only one excited, the only one committed, the only one showing up consistently. And in those moments, I don't care feels tempting. It whispers to you. It says, stop trying. It's easier this way. But easier doesn't mean better. Easier doesn't mean fulfilling. Easier doesn't build legacy. Easier doesn't build character. It builds comfort zones. And comfort zones are beautiful places, but nothing grows there. The first time you decide to care again after being numb, it's uncomfortable. Your heart beats faster. Your mind races. You overthink. You question yourself. You feel exposed. That's not weakness. That's your humanity coming back online. That's your soul stretching after being cramped for too long. There's strength in saying, this matters to me. There's strength in admitting you want something. There's strength in wanting love, success, connection, respect. Pretending you don't want those things doesn't make you superior. It just makes you distant. And distance might protect you from pain, but it also protects you from joy. You can't selectively numb your emotions. When you shut down sadness, you shut down happiness too. When you shut down rejection, you shut down belonging. When you shut down fear, you shut down excitement. It's all connected. So when you say, I don't care, you're not choosing neutrality. You're choosing smaller experiences, smaller dreams, smaller relationships, smaller risks. And over time, that becomes a smaller life. Not in size, maybe, but in depth. You stop going all the way in. You give half effort, half love, half commitment, half presence, because half feels safer than whole. But half never satisfies. Half passion feels empty. Half love feels lonely. Half effort feels regretful. You know that feeling when you lie in bed at night and think about what you could have done differently? That's not the voice of someone who doesn't care. That's the voice of someone who does, and it's tired of being silenced. You don't say, I don't care, because you're above it all. You say it because you're afraid of what happens if you admit you care deeply. If you admit you care, you have to try. If you try, you might fail. If you fail, it might hurt. So you skip to the part where you pretend none of it matters. But it does. It matters when someone you love pulls away. It matters when your work goes unnoticed. It matters when you feel stuck. It matters when you see someone else living the life you want. And denying that doesn't make it disappear. It just pushes it underground. And anything pushed underground long enough becomes pressure. Pressure becomes frustration. Frustration becomes bitterness. Bitterness becomes the kind of person who rolls their eyes at ambition and mocks vulnerability. That's not who you are. That's who you became to survive. There's a difference. Survival mode is necessary sometimes. It keeps you alive. But it was never meant to be permanent. You're not here just to survive. You're here to engage, to build, to feel, to create, to connect, to stand for something. to believe in something, to love someone, to become someone. None of that happens from, I don't care. It happens from, this matters. And yes, caring means risking embarrassment. Caring means someone might reject you. Caring means you might work hard and not see results immediately. But it also means you might build something extraordinary. You might fall in love deeply. You might discover strength you didn't know you had. You might surprise yourself. Indifference guarantees one thing: nothing changes. Caring guarantees one thing: growth. Growth isn't always comfortable. It stretches you. It challenges you. It forces you to confront parts of yourself you'd rather ignore. But it moves you. And movement is life. If you're tired of saying, I don't, to care, maybe it's because you're ready for something more. Maybe you're ready to admit that you do care about your future, about your family, about your dreams, about your purpose. Maybe you're ready to drop the shield, not because the world suddenly became safer, but because you became stronger. Stronger doesn't mean numb. Stronger means open, open to possibility, open to risk, open to connection, open to failure, open to success, open to being seen. You don't have to care about everything. You don't have to fight every battle, but you do have to choose something. Choose what matters. Choose where to invest your energy. Choose what kind of person you want to be when no one is watching. Because I don't care might protect your ego, but it won't build your life. And at some point, you'll have to decide, do you want to be safe or do you want to be alive? Indifference is sneaky. You don't notice it at first. It starts small, almost imperceptibly. A shrug here, a quiet disengagement there, a thought of it doesn't matter that slips past your mind when you should be leaning in. And at first, it feels safe. It feels like control. It feels like freedom. You tell yourself, I'm above it. I'm unbothered. I've figured it out. Indifference is not strength. Indifference is a slow self-betrayal. Every time you shrug at something that matters, you are betraying yourself. Every time you choose not to feel, not to try, not to act, you are turning your back on your own potential. You are trading vitality for comfort. You are trading presence for avoidance. It is a betrayal because it is so subtle that you barely notice it happening until one day you look around and realize your life feels smaller. You are going through the motions. You are surviving, yes, but you are no longer living. You are awake, but only barely. You are present, but only in body. And the irony is, no one else forced you into this state. You chose it. Brick by brick, moment by moment, you built a wall between yourself and the world, between yourself and your own heart. Indifference feels safe because it shields you from disappointment, from hurt, from rejection. But it comes at a cost that is rarely obvious in the moment. The cost of missing out on connection, the cost of missing out on growth, the cost of missing out on life itself. By pretending you don't care, you protect yourself from one type of pain, yes, but you allow another, much deeper pain to creep in. The pain of living below your potential. The pain of knowing you gave less than you were capable of. The pain of looking back and realizing that fear, not choice, guided your life. The danger of indifference is that it masquerades as wisdom. I've learned not to care, you might say. It's smarter this way. I'm better off being detached. But detachment is not enlightenment. It is avoidance. It is a slow erosion of your own self-respect. It is convincing yourself that protecting yourself from disappointment is the highest form of intelligence, when in reality, it is the slowest form of giving up. Every time you walk past an opportunity without acting, every time you silence your curiosity, every time you ignore your instincts, you are turning away from the very life you could have. Every time you refuse to invest your energy, your attention, your heart, you are betraying yourself. And the betrayal compounds. Because indifference is a habit. Once you allow it, it grows. It spreads. And soon, It is no longer about protecting yourself from hurt. It is about avoiding life entirely. You start to tell yourself that caring is foolish, that passion is naive, that involvement is unnecessary. You start to believe that keeping your distance from people, projects, and experiences is a form of strength. But it is a false strength. It is a strength built on denial. It is a strength built on compromise with fear. And the sad part is, deep down, you know it. Deep down, a small voice in your chest whispers, "This is not the life you were meant to live. This is not the version of yourself you hoped you would become." Indifference robs you of the very essence that makes life meaningful: engagement, connection, ambition, and empathy. When you stop caring, you stop creating. When you stop caring, you stop trying. When you stop caring, you stop listening. And listening is how we understand the world. Caring is how we leave our mark. Feeling is how we truly exist. And yet, so often, we accept this betrayal silently. We shrug. We disengage. We distract ourselves. We numb ourselves with small conveniences, easy pleasures, routines that require nothing, risks avoided at all cost. Indifference becomes a lifestyle. And when it does, we do not notice the subtle erosion of our own soul. The slowest betrayals are the ones you don't see coming. You don't wake up one morning and suddenly hate yourself for being indifferent. You wake up and months or years have passed. You look at your hands and wonder where all the chances went, where all the dreams went, where all the connections went. You look at your reflection and realize the person staring back is someone who built walls out of fear instead of bridges out of courage. It is a betrayal because it is self-inflicted. Unlike loss, unlike rejection, unlike failure, which come from the outside, indifference comes from inside you. You are the architect of your own stagnation. You are the one who chooses to step back. You are the one who chooses to say, "I don't care," when deep down you know that you do. The challenge is this: recognizing indifference for what it is. Not a strength, not wisdom, not safety, but a betrayal. A betrayal that whispers that it is protecting you, when in reality, it is robbing you. And once you see it, you can begin to fight it. You can begin to replace it with engagement, replace it with curiosity, replace it with the courage to feel again, replace it with the willingness to act, to love, to create, to risk, to be fully present. Because when you care again, even after months or years of detachment, you are choosing yourself. You are reclaiming the parts of your soul that indifference had hidden. You are choosing to live fully. You are choosing to be honest with yourself. You are choosing to stop betraying your own potential and your own humanity. Indifference may feel safe, but it is a prison. Caring may feel risky, but it is liberation. And liberation, true liberation, comes when you step out of the shadows of self-protection and into the light of wholehearted living. When you dare to care again, you are not weak. You are brave. You are alive. You are finally aligned with the person you were always meant to be. And the mornings will wake up tired but grateful. I accept that there will be disagreements about small things, about schedules, about plans, about opinions. But I also accept that those disagreements don't define us. How we handle them does. With respect, with patience, with the willingness to compromise. Love is not about winning arguments. It's about protecting the connection. I accept your silence when you need space. And I accept your closeness when you need reassurance. I won't punish you for needing either, because strength is not measured by how independent you appear. It's measured by how honestly you communicate your needs. And I want you to feel safe doing that with me. Safe to be messy, safe to be emotional, safe to be human. I accept you for my whole life is not a dramatic statement. It's a daily practice. It's choosing kindness when I'm tired. It's choosing understanding when I'm frustrated. It's choosing gratitude instead of taking you for granted. Because nothing in this world is promised. not time, not health, not tomorrow. So while we have today, I choose to love you intentionally, to speak words that build instead of break, to create memories instead of regrets, to be someone you can rely on, not occasionally, but consistently. And if one day fear whispers that this is too much responsibility, I will remind myself that love is not a burden. It's a privilege, a rare, fragile, powerful privilege to know someone deeply, to be known in return, to share your life with another soul who sees you, really sees you, and stays. So I stay, not because it's easy, not because it's flawless, but because it's real, because you're real. And real is worth committing to. Real is worth fighting for. Real is worth choosing every single day I wake up and have the chance to say it again without hesitation, without doubt, without conditions, without fear, without retreat, without pretending, without hiding, without holding back. I accept you for my whole life. Commitment means staying when it's hard. Anyone can stay when love feels light, when conversations flow effortlessly, when laughter comes easy, when nothing is being tested, but commitment reveals itself in pressure. It shows up when misunderstandings happen and pride tempts you to walk away. It shows up when exhaustion makes you less patient than you want to be. It shows up when life outside the relationship becomes overwhelming. Work, family, finances, unexpected loss. And you have to decide whether stress will divide you or refine you. Staying when it's hard doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. It doesn't mean accepting harm. It doesn't mean losing yourself. It means refusing to run at the first sign of discomfort. It means choosing conversation over silence, understanding over assumption, repair over retreat. There will be days when you don't feel understood, days when you question whether you're speaking the same language, days when you both carry stress that has nothing to do with each other, yet it spills into the room. Commitment is the pause before reaction. It's taking a breath instead of raising your voice. It's saying, help me understand, instead of, you always do this. It's recognizing that the person in front of you is not your enemy, even in disagreement. Staying when it's hard requires humility. You will be wrong sometimes. You will misunderstand intentions. You will react from old wounds instead of present truth. Commitment means being strong enough to admit that. It means apologizing without excuses. It means listening without preparing your defense. It means valuing the connection more than your ego, because ego wants to win. Love wants to protect. And there will be seasons, not just moments, seasons when things feel heavier than usual. Maybe one of you is struggling mentally or emotionally. Maybe one of you feels lost in your career. Maybe distance, time, or circumstance creates tension. Commitment is choosing not to measure love only by how it feels in that season. It's remembering why you chose each other in the first place. It's trusting that difficulty is not the same as incompatibility. It's understanding that growth is often uncomfortable. Staying when it's hard also means staying emotionally present, not withdrawing, not becoming cold, not punishing with silence. It means saying, I'm hurt, instead of pretending you don't care. It means allowing vulnerability even when it feels risky, because walking away is sometimes easier than working through. But easy doesn't build depth. Easy doesn't build trust. Trust is built when someone sees you at your worst, tired, stressed, imperfect, and still chooses to remain engaged. Commitment says, we will figure this out. Not because you're certain it will be simple, but because the relationship matters enough to try. And trying consistently is powerful. Staying when it's hard means believing that conflict can strengthen rather than destroy. That tension can lead to clarity. That discomfort can lead to deeper understanding. It means seeing challenges as shared obstacles, not personal attacks. You against the problem, not you against each other. There will be moments when doubt whispers, when frustration builds, when silence stretches longer than it should. Commitment is the decision to step back in, to reopen the conversation, to soften your tone, to reach out instead of pulling away. Because love that only survives sunshine was never tested, but love that survives storms, that becomes unshakable. Staying when it's hard is not about stubbornness. It's about resilience. It's about believing that what you're building is worth the effort required to maintain it. It's about understanding that long-term love is not sustained by intensity alone, but by consistency. And consistency is not glamorous. It's daily, it's patient, it's sometimes repetitive, but it's solid. It creates safety. It says, you don't have to fear that I'll disappear the moment things get complicated. That kind of security changes everything. It allows both people to relax, to open up, to grow without constantly worrying about abandonment. Commitment means staying when it's hard, not because you're trapped, but because you're intentional. Because you understand that meaningful connections are not disposable. They require forgiveness. They require courage. And courage is not loud. Sometimes courage is simply staying seated at the table when walking away would be easier. Choosing to listen one more time. Choosing to explain one more time. Choosing to care one more time. That is commitment. Not the promise made in comfort, but the promise kept in difficulty. Acceptance is the purest form of strength. Most people think strength is control. Control over emotions, control over outcomes, control over how others behave. But real strength isn't about control. It's about understanding. It's about looking at someone clearly, without illusion, without fantasy, and choosing them anyway. Acceptance does not mean you don't see flaws. It means you see them and you respond with compassion instead of criticism. Anyone can admire perfection. It takes depth to embrace imperfection, because imperfection is where humanity lives. We all carry things we're not proud of, mistakes that still echo in our memory, insecurities we try to hide behind confidence, fears we rarely admit out loud. Acceptance means creating a space where those things don't have to be hidden. It means saying, you don't have to pretend with me. It's easy to love someone when they're polished, when they're calm, composed, and successful. But what about when they're anxious, when they're overwhelmed, when they doubt themselves? Acceptance is choosing patience in those moments. It's resisting the urge to fix them. It's resisting the impulse to judge. It's understanding that growth is not instant, that healing is not linear, that people don't evolve on command. True strength allows room for bad days, room for learning, room for emotional complexity. It says, I don't need you to be perfect for me to value you. And that kind of reassurance changes people. When someone feels accepted, they soften, they open, they become braver because they're not constantly defending themselves. Acceptance also requires self-awareness. You cannot accept someone else fully if you are constantly fighting your own reflection. When you're secure in who you are, you don't feel threatened by someone else's differences. Their personality doesn't intimidate you. Their independence doesn't scare you. Their opinions don't feel like attacks. Strength is the ability to say, we are different, and that's okay. You don't need to mold someone into your image to love them. You don't need to erase their quirks to feel connected. In fact, those quirks are often the most beautiful parts. The laugh that's a little too loud, the stubborn streak that comes from passion, the sensitivity that makes them care deeply. Acceptance sees those things as features, not flaws. But acceptance is not weakness. It does not mean tolerating disrespect. It does not mean ignoring harmful behavior. Strength also knows boundaries. You can accept someone's humanity without accepting mistreatment. You can understand someone's past without excusing their present actions. That balance, compassion with clarity, is strength. Acceptance means recognizing that people are shaped by experiences you may never fully understand. Childhood, loss, failures, moments that left invisible scars. When someone reacts strongly, there's usually a story behind it. Acceptance pauses before judgment. It asks, what might they be carrying instead of, why are they like this? That shift in perspective can transform a relationship because most conflict is not about the surface issue. It's about feeling unseen. When you truly accept someone, you see beyond behavior. You see the fear behind defensiveness, the exhaustion behind irritability, the longing behind silence. And instead of escalating, you lean in. You respond with steadiness instead of reaction. That steadiness is powerful. It creates safety, and safety is the foundation of deep connection. When someone feels accepted, they don't have to perform. They don't have to exaggerate strengths or hide weaknesses. They can simply be. And being fully, honestly, is rare. In a world that constantly demands improvement, comparison, and perfection, acceptance feels like relief. It says, you are enough, even as you grow. In fact, people grow more when they feel accepted, when they're not shamed into change, when they're not criticized into see, lents, when they're supported instead of pressured. Strength understands that love is not a project. It's not about remodeling someone into your ideal. It's about walking beside them as they become their best self, at their pace. Acceptance also requires letting go of fantasy, the fantasy of how you imagine things unfolding. Real strength chooses reality over illusion. It says, I accept who you are, not who I wish you were. And that honesty builds trust. Because when someone knows you're not secretly trying to change them, they relax. They stop bracing for disappointment. They stop fearing that one wrong move will cost them everything. Acceptance is quiet. It doesn't announce itself loudly. It shows up in small ways, in the way you listen without interrupting, in the way you respond gently during disagreements, in the way you remember what matters to them. It's steady, reliable, unshaken by minor imperfections. And perhaps the greatest strength of acceptance is this: it frees both people. It frees the other person from the pressure of perfection, and it frees you from the exhaustion of control, because control is tiring, trying to manage every outcome, trying to correct every flaw, trying to shape someone into comfort. Acceptance allows peace. It allows you to say, we are both human, we are both learning, and in that shared humanity, there is connection, not built on fear, not built on understanding. Acceptance is the purest form of strength because it requires confidence. Confidence that love is not threatened by imperfection. Confidence that differences are not dangers. Confidence that vulnerability will not weaken the bond, but deepen it. It is strong enough to stay gentle, strong enough to remain patient, strong enough to love without conditions that suffocate. And in that strength, something powerful happens. Two people stop trying to impress each other and start truly knowing each other without masks, without fear, without needing to be anything other than fully, honestly themselves.